Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now we shift our focus to the Federal Capital Territory, where authorities are stepping up efforts to rid the streets of beggars and scavengers in a move officials say is driven by rising security concerns. As of Thursday, the Social Development Secretariat confirmed the arrest of over 210 street beggars suspected of criminal activities. But the crackdown is sparking controversy, with Senator Alindumi and the FCT Minister Wike locking horns over how best to handle the situation, raising broader questions about human rights, public safety, and policy implementation. So how should the FCT balance compassion with effective control? To help us break it down, we're joined in the studio by Dr. Saleh Ibrahim, a public affairs analyst and who has recently written an article about this development. We'll also be joined on the conversation by Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security consultant, who will be joining the conversation virtually. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us. Doctor, I'd like to start with you. Clearly, the administration in the federal capital is talking about sanity, it's talking about organizing the FCT in a manner that can guarantee safety and security of lives and property. Why do you disagree with the way they are going about it?
It is very obvious that there isn't any deep thinking and planning to precede the clampdown. As far as I'm concerned, it is the usual practice of doing things by trial and error. You consider a certain segment of the weak and vulnerable as a nuisance, and your solution is you want to get them off the street. If you ask the officials what is the population of this weak and vulnerable in FCT, they will tell you that they do not know. Also ask the officials, do you have a rehabilitation center? What are you doing about the rehabilitation center? So basically what is happening is clear case of misgovernance, lack of planning and incapacity.
Yeah, but you would agree that this is not a novel idea, right? Over the years, we've seen so many states, Kano, Kaduna, Anambra, so many states from different parts of the country banning street begging, even prosecuting people who are found violating such laws, banning street begging. So why is the case of the FCT different, in your view?
Abuja is the federal capital of this country, and you expect a model case to stem from here. If you have good governance, if you have people who have the capacity to govern properly, in fact, the government does not have to put so much resources directly on issue of weak and vulnerable. You have the non-governmental organizations that are funding such things. So the planning department could arrange and work with the non-governmental organizations to have a count of the weak and vulnerable, the destitute, and then get them even involved in bringing out solutions. But what you are seeing is simple clampdown. If you ask them, there is nothing within the context of planning that has taken place. It is just to get them off the street. They are clear case of misgovernance. I repeat, clear case of failure of governance.
Right. Dr. Kabir, let me bring you into the conversation. Obviously, security has been used as a backdrop to justify or explain why the administration is going this particular route. Is there a clear correlation between these people who are being either targeted or are being identified as a security threat and the rising insecurity in parts of the Federal Capital Territory?
Okay, thank you, and good, nice to be back here again. As far as I know, there is no evidence to indicate that there is a correlation between the activities of these beggars and the other categories of individuals that have been mentioned in the clampdown with the types of crime that occurs in Abuja. There are maybe two major types of crimes that occur in Abuja. They are the opportunistic crime and then the more violent ones, like kidnapping, one chance, name them, that home invasion that occur in Abuja. The more opportunistic ones, yes, virtually everybody who has the tendency to steal can take advantage of opportunities and steal, where the three elements of a crime triangle come together. But as far as I know, based on records available to me and the ones that I've seen from the police, this category of individuals do not come tops in terms of the likely perpetrators of crime in Abuja. And I agree with the previous speaker. I doubt if a sociological study was conducted to even identify the pull factors. Why do we have so many beggars, scavengers in Abuja? There is a reason. So even if you conduct this exercise and you do not take out the pull factors, the drivers, then since you are not going to sustain the exercise, like we very well know, it's going to be an exercise for a period, you relax, these guys are going to come back again. So to that extent, I am not clear about the efficacy and the effectiveness of this exercise as far as security is concerned. If the idea is to, maybe there is a conference coming up and they want to beautify Abuja and reduce beggars on the street, then yeah, maybe it will serve that purpose. But like I said, the moment they let down on it, either these same ones or another set of beggars will come back, because the pull factor exists. The socioeconomic conditions that allow for begging and other things to be, vibrant, as it were, in Abuja will continue to remain. And so as long as we do not do, like what the previous speaker mentioned, a study with a strategy that is meant to be, permanent, quote unquote, this is an exercise in futility.
Right. It's mostly about cause and effect. We did hear during the budget defense earlier in the year, the Minister of the FCT and Senator Ali Ndume going back and forth about what to do, because the senator was appealing and making a case for some sort of government intervention that will cater to the needs of these groups of people. Give me your understanding of what is the best way forward here from the security standpoint and from a sustainability standpoint, because as you did say, it might work for a couple of weeks or maybe even a month, but we'll be back where we started somewhere down the line.
So, the solution is rooted in improving the socioeconomic conditions of people. So it's not going to be easy as long as the poverty levels remain as high as they are. And we know the drivers of, the socioeconomic conditions that we have. So one of the easiest things to do is to profile these people, have some form of documentation that says who they are, and where possible even use them. There have been instances like we've seen in other parts of the world where they use them to support security. Remember, they're out there, they see what is happening more than you and I who just drive by. They stay out on the street, their eyes and ears are open. They know what is normal, they know what is not abnormal. So especially when it comes to intelligence gathering, they could be a very good tool. So profile them, identify the genuine ones from the ones that are not so genuine, where you can help them, support them. Where you can't help them, allow them to continue doing what they're doing, but give them access in such a way that they can contact you, they can call you if they see anything that is abnormal. And perhaps even, carry out some form of sensitization to reduce, because I think part of the challenge is the manner with which they go about begging. So if you can perhaps improve on that manner so that they reduce this tendency of being, kind of being in your face. They stay a little bit back, and perhaps even in clusters, it would reduce the tendency for the authorities to feel that they are a nuisance. I don't want to use that word, but I guess this is what the authorities feel. They are a nuisance, and so get rid of that nuisance. But it's not going to be as easy as that. Like I said, there is a pull factor, and that pull factor is dragging them, and it will continue to drag them. Whether this set or another set will continue to come as long as the pull factor remains. So profiling, documentation, and some level of advocacy or sensitization, targeting, the community, as it were, of beggars and scavengers would help reduce the possibility. I don't want to leave here with the impression that they cannot be a security threat. They can be a security threat. Those who want to commit different types of criminal activities, including terrorism, sometimes adopt the cover of beggars and scavengers. So taking their documentation in terms of profiling them will reduce that possibility of someone infiltrating them, using them as a group to commit crime or even terrorism, as the case may be.
All right, bringing the conversation back into the studio and to piggyback off of what Dr. Kabir was saying about, this being a half measure, going the whole hog, documentation and everything. Obviously, the administration did say that it has made arrangements to profile them and hand them over to their various states. But also a category of the people affected by this, Doctor, is the fact that you have scavengers who are either responsible for vandalizing public property, as the case may be. We've seen so many arrests by the FCT Police Command, vandals who are trading manholes, cables, street lights and things like that. There's definitely a case here with other segments or other members of that category, isn't it?
I listened to Dr. Kabiru. In all honesty, within the context of the global environment that we are living in, this is a phenomenon that is more prevalent in developing countries. It's not only peculiar to Nigeria. And there are certain templates, there are standards, there are countries that have solved such problems. Kenya, Indonesia, Malaysia, they have solved such problems. It is just within the context of what we lack, capacity in governance. If you have somebody within the context of the leadership that has capacity, you will understand that just bring the right individuals to study what has happened elsewhere and bring up a framework for solving the problem. So it is not rocket science.
So when you say capacity, what are you referring to exactly?
What I'm simply saying is that you study what others have done. It's as simple. It's a global world. You understand, just understudy what Indonesia did. They funded NGOs. They organized some non-governmental organizations that focus on issue of the weak and vulnerable, and they funded them. They were doing what you call scale acquisition for the destitute. Those of them that are not sick, they are not too frail to go into certain skills.
But is that sustainable? Because the next question would be then, what if this sends a signal to other vulnerable groups outside of the FCT who now say, oh, there's a solution there in the FCT, so let's troop in. And then they break the system because there's only so much money you can target towards an initiative like this.
You see, it's a country. We're talking about Nigeria. And there is even supposed to be what you call peer group synergy. If you come up with a model case in Abuja, where is the federal capital, and then there is an injection of federal capacity to the states to copy, it will solve the problem. So what I'm seeing in essence is simply systemic corruption pervading the whole environment, and simple things for the weak and vulnerable cannot be done. Very shameful thing.
So in your view, this is inhuman and unacceptable?
Yes.
What about the argument that the administration is making about safety, about sending a clear message that rules and regulations are meant to be followed, not broken? Because this is not the first time the FCT administration is making this type of argument against street begging or scavengers that they consider quote-unquote nuisance to the Federal Capital Territory.
I totally disagree with that generalization. There are criminals in virtually within government, within even our households and so on. Pick the criminals, but don't generalize and say everybody should leave. What I'm saying in essence is that there is clear case of lack of capacity and simplistic way of simply looking at the weak and vulnerable and clearing them out because they are helpless. So what I'm saying is that it is inhuman. It is not proper. They are citizens of this country and they are entitled to welfare.
And Dr. Kabir, just before we wrap things up, give me your understanding of the scale of the problem that the FCTA is going to deal with here in terms of you know, the number of people who are into street begging, who are into scavenging, who are into all the other activities that the government deems a threat to public safety and security. I mean, Abuja is not necessarily the smallest area that you can, you know, supervise consistently for the next couple of months. What is your understanding of the scale of the problem here and how much the FCT can actually do to mop up the unwanted?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that we're having this conversation, but it's the reality of the situation in the FCT today. I doubt if the FCT has the capacity to prevent, as it were, street begging or scavenging or the other activities that it's currently trying to mop up. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. I'll give you a few examples to buttress my point. A few years ago, there was information suggesting that a particular religious group was going to come into Abuja to protest. And all the security agencies were notified. Yet, that particular group came into Abuja, protested, and the result was that a couple of people lost their vehicles, others died, and all of that. So that's a clear case of the lack of capacity, as it were, to prevent certain persons from infiltrating Abuja. Another example is the several instances of raids by the task force that has been set up by the minister to look into these issues of both scavenging and other activities that the administration feel they don't want. As far as I know, this has been ongoing for quite a long while, but yet we still have the challenge. I did mention earlier on that there is a pull factor. That pull factor exists in Abuja. The arms that the average resident of the Federal Capital Territory will give, they are not likely to get that in other states. So that's the pull factor. And I also think, even though this is not, I'm not a sociologist, but based on my little observation, I think there is a cartel behind some of the begging. All you need to do is on a Friday, just sit down and see the number of persons that will be coming in vehicles. Or when you are at a traffic light where there is a build-up, you see in minutes how those people that are selling, you know, the vendors that would sell stuff around the traffic light, how they would just emerge from nowhere. So it appears there is a cartel that is behind it. And if it's actually a cartel, then again, I really doubt if the FCTA will have the capacity to address it and to control it. If they conduct a study, like my co-discussant has mentioned, and understand the phenomenon, and in fact, like he suggested, come up with a framework, then maybe they would have a chance. But if this haphazard approach that we're seeing is what would continue, then I strongly doubt if they do have a chance.
Right. All right, gentlemen, for want of time, we're going to have to leave the conversation here for now. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Dr. Salih Ibrahim, thank you so much for providing us with the analysis this evening. I appreciate you very much for joining us. Well, as always, thank you most kindly for your time and company. Daily Politics returns next week, Monday, live and exclusive on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and good night.